So my screen says 6:52, but my phone says 7. So are we actually recording right now?
Mine says 7 as well.
Yeah, it's just recording now. We're live on 2 platforms, 3.
Okay. Okay, we just starting.
Good evening,
We
everyone.
are live.
Okay, good evening. So we're gonna we're gonna do a 2 to 5 minute on just the opening, giving persons opportunity to come on in the room. Giving persons opportunity to come in. Good evening, Demetra, Lena.
Good
Testing,
evening.
testing. Testing.
Giving persons opportunity to come in.
Testing.
Yeah, people are in the waiting room waiting to get in.
George, are you seeing people in the wedding
Yeah,
room?
I'm letting them in.
Okay. Okay.
Larry, can you hear me? I can hear you good. Can you hear me? Yes.
We're gonna start in about two minutes.
Please turn your phones on vibrate or silent.
Battery 100%. Connected to Galaxy S22.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As we had a awesome discussion on last week, and we are definitely in the final stretches and conclusion of leading into our vote. And if everyone hasn't, or if you're waiting to vote tomorrow, awesome. If you've did early voting, mail-in voting, that's great. As long as you have exercised your right, that is awesome. So this evening, based on our conversations from last week, we had a very good discussion. And there was some opinions and there was thoughts on what persons saw as it related to this 2024 unbelievable election. But as the purposes of this evening, I definitely want to give kudos to persons that are coming in to be a part of our discussion for this evening. And I also want to acknowledge my co-host, Andre Charlie, and I'm thinking Renard is gonna be coming in. And we also have George and Larry, a lot that is on the call for this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Andre, and he's going to give some insight into areas of discussion that we're going to be looking at really closely for this evening discussion tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We had a very rich discussion last week, and out of that discussion, there were a few people that wanted to expand the discussion in some areas. One, a lot of the ladies would like to have a voice, and we are here for you tonight, as well as the topics being climate control, inflation or climate change, the economy, gun control, voting rights, and civil rights were some of the areas that were that people expressed the interest. So tonight we would like to get into those areas, keeping in mind, to share airspace, making sure that we limit our responses, especially as time winds down. We may have to start to, ask you to wrap it up earlier, but try to keep it to about 30 seconds and also respect others' views. And let's have our discussion. All right. Is there anyone that had a question or burning statement that they needed to make from what we already expressed? And you can raise your hand. If you know in the reactions in the bottom, there's a hand raising there, but we'll continue to talk until then. It's an exciting time. We know that tomorrow is the day. So if you have not voted, or if you have voted and know someone who hasn't voted, please encourage them to vote. And we would like for you to just encourage everyone that you are connected with to get out and offer a ride if you need to, so that we are getting the votes in. Every vote counts at this point. It's going to be a very, very tight run all the way to the end. Okay. With that being said, Dr. Jan.
Sure.
Like the boss.
So I know that there are many areas, well, there are many areas of that we want to look at and we have thoughts about. I know as it relates to our last discussion, I had mentioned about my area of work, which is in mental health, but also infant mortality is a very key area. And I had given some facts as it relates to who had contributed, meaning the candidates that contributed from past, as well as looking at what they could be doing going into the future as it relates to contribution financially, as well as just the concerns. So there's a lot of research that is out now that you can look up under the Biden administration, and some bills that have been signed, as well as when you look at the education, there has been forgiveness of student loans. And so that was a big area that I had interest in as well. And that was very, very historic, in my opinion, for loan forgiveness to assist with moving forward. So that's just one of many, I should say, areas of concern that I had in particular, but also, Andre, what would you say out of is it 7 areas in particular, such as the climate control, as well as civil rights, voting rights, and what are other areas? You're muted.
It was Social Security. The other area was Social Security, and we talked about and voting rights. So those are areas that individuals had concerns about, and there probably was I from getting the dollar amount of the student loan forgiveness, I feel like I read somewhere like 30 million, but I'm trying to find that number. But it is definitely an area that was supported by the Biden administration. So I want to support that as well. Uh, any questions? I see something in the chat. I'm not sure what. Okay. Just wanted to make sure there was no question in the chat. All right. So with that being said, we could talk about one of the areas that is concerning, which is the ability to know kind of like what route, what way you want to go. And some people are on the fence. And is there any areas that we need to help, provide insight on as well in those areas before I just start talking?
Well, I want to do a poll. I want to do a poll tonight, and I don't want it to be necessarily for the entire group. So I want to try to get a poll from everyone to do a favor and just in your chat, direct message me. And if you will, if you feel like sharing which candidate you're leaning to. I just want to get a poll. And it'll just come to me, and then I'll weigh in to saying, okay, there's 8 people going this way or 10 people going that way. And just if you want to, and you can chime in as well. Again, as we had mentioned on our last call, we want to try to make this a safe space. Okay. And want everyone to feel welcome with being able to say what is in their thoughts, but at the same time, we don't want to make it where it's so, okay, this is my opinion, this is my thoughts on this is why, and then we get into back and forth, like not a discussion that'll take up the whole call, but actually just thoughts on why you're leaning this way because of facts that maybe you've seen. And so that's a big part of what our discussion had led into a previous conversation, is to want to stick as close to facts as you know. If anyone has done the research and the background and looking at how and why you're leaning from one candidate to the other and what's going on in your community in specificity, that you will see that you want to see some change in, and you know that how the laws will be changed or which way they can go based on who's going to be in office. So anyone jump in? And we will get the conversation. Don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. Don't be shy, because I know I had really gotten a lot of DMs after the call and
Yeah.
persons that were expressing that, oh, I really wanted to say something, but I didn't get a chance to. So this is your opportunity. We are starting at the first of the hour.
Well,
And give a thumbs up when you're running this off.
I'll go ahead and just express some areas that were important to me as to why I would support VP Harris. As far as one, we've mentioned the student loan forgiveness and the fact that she voted for the American Rescue Plan, and has been part of history fighting for those that have had a need to have someone speak for them, even though there was a lot of controversy out of her record in California, but we debunked some of that throughout the history, as well as being one to have the thought about those individuals who needed support with the Medicaid, Medicare, making sure their health insurance. She voted for the extension for the unemployment. She also assisted with the votes for any tie-breaking votes that really led to those individuals that were less disenfranchised. She was on the side of support for all of those. And that is some of the areas as to why, and the humanism, just being a person that has watched some of the individuals that know her closely, because I don't, but have had conversations with her and trying, just compared the two and what that looks like for me. That's what some of the areas that I support, and definitely mental health is important as a therapist. So anyone else? And we also didn't mention immigration too. There was some body that was one of the other topics, Dr. Jan. So
Okay,
that was the area.
In
okay,
this election, my main concern has been the rolling back of various rights of people through the changing of the laws based on the policies that were put forth on the Trump webpage with the Project 2025, which once they had an uproar about the 2025 document, they changed it to Project 47, which of course is the next president will be the 47th. And the assumption of the Republican Party is that Trump will be the 47th. I think that we fought too hard and too long for the rights that we have now, the right of freedom, which, at one point, our ancestors were slaves in America. Very few of us came here as free men. Very few of us came here with property and resources to obtain land and businesses. And what's been put forth is we are not deserving of the same land and resources that our predecessors had, which are, of course, the ones that enslaved us. And once the January 6th incident happened, where they actually tried to overcome the leadership, overthrow the Capitol, that became a real thing here in America. It's prevalent in a lot of other countries around the world where they have elections and then they break out into civil war. People are killed in masses. And I never thought that could happen here again. But of course, prior to our United States government that's in place now, before the United States of America, it was owned by France, England, the Spanish, the Mexicans. There were a lot of fighting and a lot of civil war then. But I never thought I see it at my age. And when I saw the January 6th and the person that basically got on stage and said, we're going to march to the Capitol, even though they may have said peacefully, I don't think they meant peacefully. And now, 4 years later, I see that person running for office again. It's no way I'm going to give back my right to vote, like they already took the women's right for the abortion issue. They took their rights away. They can do much more than that. And that same person, again, is running for office. And I don't care what other policies they run on. But to me, the number one is freedom, the right to vote, the right of choice. And he already brags about taking away the abortion right from women. So what is he going to brag about next?
Thank you, OD. We really appreciate you. We got to move on. We want to make sure we give everyone a chance. And great point. Robert, you're up.
All right, yeah. So many things to talk about just across the board. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Just so many things, two totally different candidates, and that really is what it should be. But should the extremes be so many between the two, meaning one perspective to another perspective? Now, there's some things, even with, there's no presidential candidate that you're going to like everything that they do. It's just not the nature of things in human nature. Am I in favor of, I call it the alphabet soup. I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but all of the things that happen within, you can't change your gender. So do I like that aspect about, what Kamala Harris brings to the table? Not necessarily, but that's an individual life. If they decide to do that, that's on that individual. More of a issue with the things that have a tendency to affect the masses. You listen at what Donald Trump does, you look at his track record when he was in office, the number of federal judges that he appointed while he was in office that first time around, and then what the intent behind those appointments were. The importance of voting on local levels, not just presidential. You look at the tax breaks that he's given to the wealthy. You look at his Supreme Court appointees and some of the things that have been allowed under that particular umbrella when it comes to the different things that they've taken away. Like the gentleman said, you look at voting rights, you look at women's rights. They're trying to tell a woman what she can do with her own body. Just different things like that. Then he tells you that he wants to be a dictator. He's telling you that he wants to go back to, he wants a totalitarianship.
10 seconds. All right.
I'll leave it right there.
All right. Thank you. All right. Troy, thank you.
Troy, are you there?
You're on mute if you are.
Okay.
There was another hand raised. Young lady, are you still wanting to speak?
Well, I do want to just welcome Raynard. He is our other co-host. He was on his way, but if Raynard, you wanted to jump in also, he's a mental health therapist and do a lot of work with men and had some insight reference to the voting, but I also want to make sure it's a lot of ladies on the call tonight. And as we had went over last week, when I actually after the call, I had a couple of ladies reach out and say, hey, there's other areas other than abortion that we want to talk about. And I said, okay, well, we'll try this again next week and make sure that you jump in. So I just want to make sure that you go ahead, give a thumbs up when you're ready to jump in, and we want to hear it. So feel free. So Raynard, if you want to say anything and then we'll.
Just one of my concerns is just in general for Black men altogether. One of the experiences that a lot of Black men had was the increased racism that they experienced while Trump was in office. And that was one of the times where you began to see an increase in more publicized police shootings. And so one of the current concerns that I have with the Trump campaign is his talks about complete and full immunity for police officers. And that directly affects Black men who were disproportionately assaulted and murdered by police officers, as well as Black women. And so that's my concern with his campaign, is giving police full immunity. What is then going to happen to the race of Black men? Because we know that the Black men are going to be the target.
Okay, that's a very
Yes,
interesting point.
Thank you. Now,
yes. Um,
Tony. Troy.
yes, I had a problem with my phone. I'm not sure if you're able to hear me or see me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. First, I wanted to just say once again, good evening. I think last week I left off with I felt like I was online at a Kamala rally, and I'm hearing it once again. I think that the citizens of the United States are betting are basically voting on the lesser of two evils. I don't think we should sugarcoat Kamala Harris or we should sugarcoat Donald Trump. I think that honestly and truthfully, if I had to vote, my vote is swinging. I'm gonna be honest and truthfully towards more or less Kamala Harris. The reason why she was 10 points behind when she got in this race. And for her to be where she's at right now says a lot about the country. I think the country believes in her. I think that she's polished. And I think for as the people and everything else is concerned, she's the one that's going to be able to take us into our future. But I think that she also has some history behind her that she has to acknowledge. And I think we need to acknowledge that online this evening. I think we need to acknowledge the mass incarceration. I think we need to acknowledge that not only mass incarceration, that one of the things we need to acknowledge is population control. I think that when it comes down to the government and it comes down to the urban community, for the Black community is concerned, the government always find a way for its population control when it comes to our people. Whether we go from syphilis, whether we go to the crack epidemic, whether we go to HIV for its age, whether we go to same-sex marriages, whatever, whether we go to abortion, all of it I look at it as a form of population control. I think up on the Obama administration, for she's concerned, violating our loved ones for its nonviolent offenses, these are things that she's going to have to take the time out to acknowledge in the future to move forward for us to get the urban communities vote to stand behind her. I think that people are choosing her only because she's the lesser of two evils. If I had to vote this evening, it would most likely be independent. But if I had to vote based on who's polished and who's able to carry us into the future, I'd have to vote on forgiveness and go with Kamala Harris because I think she's more for the people than Donald Trump being a dictator that scares me. But really, I think that the country is not buying her. They're not buying what she's selling. They're not buying what he's selling. I think that people are voting based on the lesser of two evils.
Thank you, Troy. And I had a question if you could speak to when you were saying mass incarceration and connected to her, what exactly were you referring to?
I'm referring to her being the attorney general off up in California, violating a lot of men and women of color based on nonviolent offenses. You know, I mentioned last week that I experienced my daughter's father who did 21 years in prison behind a flashlight and did that up under the three strike law, which is a nonviolent offense. I think that when it comes down to mass incarceration, that's something not necessarily in California, but all across the United States. For as men and women of color is concerned, the judicial system kind of swings in a kangaroo court when it comes down to men and women of color, and we have to acknowledge that. I think that population control, that's what this abortion is not about, whether or not a woman was raped or whether or not it was incest or whether or not, she was on the table and she was about to pass away. I think that it's more or less about population control for its urban community. So neither whether it's Kamala or whether it's Trump, when it comes to population control, our people, the government always puts something in place when it comes down to population control. And we have to look
Oh,
at the population control history, going
Okay.
from syphilis, going from AIDS, going to
right.
same.
Well, hold on, Troy. So I definitely want to applaud you for referencing that area again. I know that Dr. John Newby had mentioned something about his area of work before on the call last week. But I wanted to say something about all of the information that you were given, and I'm wanting to urge everyone, as you had spoke, for everyone to do their due diligence and look up the information, look up the history of what you're speaking to, so that again, it can be, I'm sure, and I've been getting in the direct messenger how persons have already leaned and voting, or thoughts if they are still contemplating, but mostly I have already gotten a poll for where anyone else. But I just want to make sure that if you're still undecided, and based on what you're saying too, is to do your due diligence. For sure, exercise your right that you've been given, but not just taking things at face value or even based on individual. Because again, we all, if we're living, and everyone is on this call have voted before, I'm sure, and have been living in America for a length of time and have had experiences. But if you have not looked into the candidates' background and their history and have saw and have dug and have come across information to make an educated, well decision, then again, we could go around and around and around talking about what our opinions are, what our spiritual beliefs are, and what we're feeling. But consciously, you want to vote the way that you desire, and pretty much at the end of the day, that's really what's going to count, is that you really do make a conscientious effort in just saying, okay, I'm exercising my vote. But for the purposes of us being on this call again, I just wanted it to be informative. And if any thoughts, last minute thoughts, we're in the home stretch. And but just to say, if you have friends, you have family, you have loved ones, have the young people that are still undecided and just feeling as though, okay, it doesn't matter, as I gave indication on last call, that it was a young man I spoke to, and he said that it doesn't matter anyway if I vote or not, because they all lie. And I told him, I said, yes, it does matter. And he had an 8-year-old son. So I said, it does matter for you to cast your vote because it's your right. And that's what was important. I wanted him to feel that it was important. And then he did. He went ahead and he registered and he has cast his vote. So I was happy about that. If it's just that one person.
So Dr. Newby, this is George. We're unable to raise our hand on here because I guess the stats, but I know Larry wanted to say something. If that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry. I was here last week and dialogue quite interesting. I'm still on the fence, even though we vote tomorrow. Tomorrow's the big day. I'm still on the fence because you hear so many negative ads on both sides. And I'm more so, let's get to the issue. Y'all chewed on enough fat. Chewed on enough fat. Now give me some meat. I can spit this fat out. One of my concerns is immigration and how it affects us, but at a disproportionate number. When I say that, I look at our community, and I remember growing up during a time when a lot of the businesses was owned by people that look just like me. And then fast forward into the future, and I don't feel like we have too many businesses that represents us, but that we have a toehold on, or something that we can, that will build generational wealth for our people, our family and whoever's important to you. But I hear a lot of mud slinging, not in this conversation, but I'm talking about if I turn my TV on, I don't even really listen to the radio too much because I get so many negative ads from both sides, to where, I feel like everybody it's like, if you can't, what they say, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with BS, that's how I feel. And then people, if I feel like I hear a lot of people speaking to issues, which is cool, and it might be good speaking points, it might work, but then, the stuff that really matters, I'm not hearing too many people speak a lot about, like just, I can just say, I feel like we have a lot of representatives in our government, just of our descent, but we can't get nothing done under our name. It had to be for the what do they call for the what word am I looking for? They'll say for people who
Minorities.
Yeah, minorities. Sorry, excuse me, for the minorities. But then by the time we get there, everything gone because everybody minority, And I don't think that, I don't feel like we're being really represented in the proper light, at least according to my portion of understanding. So, you know, I'm just here, but I'm enjoying the conversation and the dialogue.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Appreciate it.
Blair. I was seeing comments in the chat. Dr. Fuller, thank you she has such wisdom all the time. But I want to read what she has written in the chat, and then I also saw some interesting chats of her comment was about America's culture. I don't know if it's for everyone to see it, but it speaks to our culture and looking at how we can move past as a people and ourselves from the past. We acknowledging our cultural changes as a people of color. We have our systems, we have our ideologies, and there's ways that, we can think outside the box and not just be so skewed and limited in the knowledge that we see and hear on our social media and around us and hearsay, but actually holding ourselves accountable, and how we can actually look at hope to go forward and move forward into the future, and actually casting our vote, knowing that the vote we cast tomorrow or have already cast, if you have little ones, if you have siblings that have little ones, who knows what tomorrow holds? But we can have hope to believe whatever the structural changes are, that's going to be an investment made for their future. Because in 4 years or 8 years, we don't know what's going to happen. But that's what that vote should maybe be looked at. And when it's cast, is to say what's going to happen 8 years from now. I know my taxes are different. They are changed. It wasn't very good for me when I filed my taxes this year, because of what was put in place by a former president that caused my taxes to be a lot more. And I'm simply working, doing the best that I can. So that's just, again, another one of my thoughts. So you have to, again, going back to the conscious, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So we'll move on. Please, everyone else, as we we ended the call exactly at 8 last week, and then I was asked, oh, can you go a little longer? But I want to make sure that everyone's mindful of the time and know that I'm going to be as close as possible, mindful of the time, but I don't want you to hold until the end. Go ahead, and if you would like to contribute, please do.
I would, Dr. Newby. This is George Grundy, if I could. Can you all hear me? Okay, so for me, there's been a lot of gaslighting going on during this process, from my purview as a Black male, and being reached out to saying that I'm needed. I don't appreciate being needed at the last minute or at the end, and not being put into the conversation, put in different positions, and our image being destroyed all at the same time with what's going on in the broader community. My vote, personally, I'm not voting for either one of them. And that's my personal viewpoint, because I'm not into the lesser of two evils. I'm not going to stab you or shoot you. I'm going to make a different decision. If the outcome of that means that we have to work some things out, then we have to, because you have to earn my vote and you have to understand the power of my block. When I say that, I'm saying the Black male vote, since it's so important now, since there's so much put on the shoulders now saying that we're important, then I need that to matter by policy. I need that to matter by investment. I need to be able to go to a Black restaurant or a Black shoe store or a Black doctor or a Black psychologist or psychiatrist. Those things and those people, I need to be a part of community to where I don't have to go to the Asian community or go to the Arab community or the Indian community and do my business. These things are things that have to change for me, and the opportunities have to be more plentiful for me to feel like I'm a part of this American society. I've done my part, did what I'm supposed to do. I keep doing it, but I keep getting kicked in the face in different ways. I don't know how many other people have that same experience, but for me, I'm not giving any into any fear mongering. It's going to be based on what is affecting me in this community, in this society. And if it's adverse, then I'm not going to be a part of you just gaslighting me to get something so you can have something. And then I go back to being invisible. I'm done.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Bernard's hand was up.
I definitely appreciate, that perspective as well. I've heard that sentiment from a couple of people that, that they were saying that they weren't voting for either candidate because neither one of them really, the concern was I've voted before, and then we go back to being, kind of invisible, people not, politicians not holding their word. So I really appreciate that perspective. To some of the people who are undecided in their vote, the one thing that I would, really urge us to do is to not just rely on TV campaign ads and barbershop talk to really understand the candidates, to actually set aside time to, and I mean, I know the election is tomorrow, but even tonight, to do some Google work, do some actual research and reading facts about the campaigns, because all you're going to get from the ads are just slander. That's all you're going to get. You're going to just really get hearsay. And so one of the things that I did is I actually set aside in my schedule like 2 to 3 hours to just kind of like read up on who I was actually voting on and going to different websites, vote.com and things of that nature, to really understand what these people campaigns were and what their agenda was, looking at how did they vote in the past and what is the likelihood that they're going to keep their word this time. Because if we rely on just what they're presenting on television, we just gonna get slander back and forth. We need to look at what they're actually putting down on paper.
Thank you, Ray. All right, John, you're next.
Okay, hey, good evening, everybody, and it's good to see all my brothers and sisters here gathered. I first just want to say this. Originally, I was not going to make any comments on this call. I know Janice had assembled this, and I think it's extremely important that we all come together to try to discuss as not only Black men but Black women what is going on in our country. And and I feel for the comments made by my brother Larry and by Troy, I think that one of the things that I know for me personally, after growing up in the city of Detroit and being a Black man, it's hard out here for us. It's hard because we're judged even before we open our mouths. We're judged no matter what setting you walk into. We're conceived as a threat. No matter how many degrees or initials you have behind your name, you do. This right now is so important as a historic time in our history that we get out and say what our voices need to speak from the graves of our ancestors on what is going on in our society. Before we didn't have a voice. We have a voice now. If we expect someone to come knock on our front door to personally greet you and say, hey, I'm Kamala Harris, I'm vying for your vote, or I'm Donald Trump and I'm vying for your vote. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm going off of right now, just simply what's right and what's wrong. Okay. And I agree wholeheartedly with the premise of that. You don't go off of what the social media is saying, but I go off of the actions. The only thing you have to do is you listen. If you truthfully listen to the candidates speak, just 5 minutes, and open mind, just to see, you know who you want to represent you. And as an advancement of our race, and for all that we've been through here in this country, there's only one clear choice for me, and that's with Ms. Harris. You know, I truly want to be part of and witness part of this historic time, and also how that's going to impact the trajectory of our futures for not just us right now, here and now, but for the kids to come. When do we ever believe that we would have ever seen a Black man hold the highest office in across the planet? But we all witnessed it. Everybody that's on this call right here, you had a chance to experience that, and he represented us well.
John.
I'm willing to give her that same choice. So, you know, I think you should make up your mind, you know, and go for that. So that's really all I had. Thanks so much. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, we had a hand already. I think we lost them. Larry, did you want to say something?
Real quick, I'm sorry. Let me just cut John.
Well, it was Larry Jackson.
Let me just say this real quick. If you had your hand raised and you've already spoken, click the button to take your hand down, because I think that's where it's getting confused. That, including myself, that I got to take the hand down. But if you've already spoken, you have to go back in to take your hand down so that they don't think that you're still wanting to say something else. That's it.
All right. Well, while we wait for that, there were a couple of statements. Larry Jackson, I'm not sure if you would like to. Yeah, you're back. Okay, go for it.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to go back to a comment that was made earlier about doing your due diligence. I guess I can just tell a quick little story. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago where there was a report about Vice President Kamala actually reaching out to the governor of Florida about the hurricane. And so I was very upset because I thought that, oh, the governor is not responding. But I said, you know what, let me go and do some research on the other side. And so then I heard the argument actually from the governor as well, which he stated that he's never talked to the vice president about anything. He usually talks to the president. And so he usually talks to FEMA. And I said that to say that if we just listen to one side of the argument, we can be swayed in such a way that we don't really understand everything that's going on. But I listened to both sides, and then I could really make a decision on how I felt. But it was not until I heard both sides of the argument. And so I think we need to also hear both sides. So if we're just stuck on just say one channel and we only hear from the right or from the left, I think we only get one point of view. And so I think it's crucial to be able to balance that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to a couple of the comments that we hadn't talked about. There's a comment saying if abortion was the issue, President Trump has abided by the Supreme Court's decision, leaving it to the states. If you look at the real data for Black men and women are far less accosted by police than their white counterparts. And if we're living in the alternative universe, well, we can, just narrow and misinformed is what Leslie feelings are, and we want to make sure that we stick with feelings and not facts, as well as a question here for George. It says, what are the gains and the risk by your decision? And no one will ever validate the Black man, but the Black man and the Black woman. George, did you have a response to that? It was based on your previous comment about 10 minutes ago.
My apologies. I was trying to take care of some stuff on the back end. Could you repeat that?
You were saying, what were your gains? What are the gains and risks by your decision? I guess not to, I don't know if you actually said you were going to vote or not, but
No, I'm
no
voting.
one would.
I'm just not, when it comes to the presidential election with the two main parties,
Mhm.
those are not my choices.
Yeah,
And the gains and losses
okay.
of those, I'm accountable for my decisions. Um, we, I think of the 3/5 compromise, the electoral college, and so on and such when it comes to how our country is run. Uh, During the Bush and Gore, the electoral college picked be outside of the popular vote. During the Clinton and Trump, the electoral college picked outside of the popular vote. So even regardless of all those things, when it comes to being a black male, in my personal experience, I vote every time. I vote for every election. I go and I put, whether I write my name in or your name in, I go and vote. If there's some discord or some things that challenge uh, or that are negative that come from my decisions, I'm already dealing with negative things anyway. I'm already prejudged by the police. I'm already in situations where I can't go shop without people bothering me. I'm already in situations where when I go after government contracts or whatever is available to me, I'm already dealing with discord. So if I can't have a a lane to where I can go and do proper business, then why am I going to give you my energy to continue to gaslight me and keep me out of the game?
Okay, thank you so much. I would just say to that, if that is your plight and that and the way you want to go, maybe considering voting on the one where you might get the best opportunity, even though we don't know what the future holds. There's a history between both, and voting for, someone independent outside of those two won't necessarily help us in the long run. And that'll just be what I'll say to that.
And I understand that. Uh, but again, it's when the Asian crime bill needed to be passed, it was passed immediately. When other bills were passed for other minority groups, they were passed immediately.
I
So
understand.
there are many things that we're still waiting on that we have the leverage, the power, and the block in order
Yes,
to get, but we don't receive those things, and it's on both sides of the aisle.
I understand, George. I was just saying, just overall, we're looking at the best from the independent won't get you there. That's all I'm saying. All right. Craig. And John Robert, is your hand new? Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Let's go, Craig. He hasn't spoken yet. Then Robert.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everything that's been said. I am definitely voting for Donald Trump. We had a great, unique opportunity to see both presidencies, actually, and I agree with what people said about us being gaslit, because we are being gaslighted, because they are reaching us with celebrities. They're reaching us with all these celebrities and entertainers, but it's all about what it's all about right now is policy. And that's what I'm looking at. Life for me was better under Trump. I was able to hire 750 people with good healthcare jobs, good paying healthcare jobs. I made the most money of my life under Trump. And I just think that Kamala Harris is a proxy. You listen to her talking points, it's the same thing over and over and over. She can barely speak. And she goes to safe outlets. When Trump and Vance, they go into the lion's den. And for me, it's not about color. And I think people are actually capitalizing off of Black trauma and Black fear. They always roll us in, and they treat the Black community like a prostitute. They come to us when they at the last hour, when they need us. And we've been following the Democrats for over 60 years. What has gotten better? Look at every city you're going to see us following Democrats. All these urban, and we got the hot, if you look at the top murder rates per city, they've been telling us this. What they say insanity is, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. They talk to us, they finesse us, they come to our churches, manipulate the women, but what do they give us? Nothing. I'm just speaking from my heart. Put the race on the other side. Although Kamala Harris is married to a white man, she didn't prioritize race. She's married. If we want to bring race into it, she married a black man.
Okay.
So it's not, for me, it's not about race. It's about my pockets and my family.
Thank
And that's me. Yeah.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll just say a couple of things, like as far as the Lions doing though. Kamala did go to Fox News, which is straight the Lions Den, as well as 60 Minutes without him. And there were a lot of opportunities that Trump could have spoken against, racial discrimination, police brutality, and things of that nature, which he did not. So we have to keep those things in mind as well. All right, let's go to Robert.
All right, just real quick in relation to what did the last gentleman kind of spoke to as well. To reduce not only those of us who are, a part of this Zoom right now, but anybody else who is casting a vote for Kamala Harris, whether they are or not, to color is that definition of ignorance. You don't know the standpoints of the people. Now, that being said, you look at Donald Trump. Question, and this is rhetorical. Did he participate in an insurrection on the 6th of January? Donald Trump, when you talk about the Central Park Five, those individuals who were charged with an offense, how did he try to follow up with them? Somebody said something about the 3 strikes law. When you look at the 3 strikes law, go back to Ronald Reagan, whose desk it was on. Then look at who implemented it, which was Clinton. But you look at Ronald Reagan and his wife, they were just say no. But at the same time, they're just saying no, you're flooding the communities with crack cocaine. You look at Donald Trump says in a rally, he said, I could walk outside, shoot somebody, come back in and not lose 1 vote. Donald Trump speaks to being a dictator. He wants to go after the individuals that are not loyal to him when he comes back, should he come back into office. Somebody said something about population control. If we want to talk about population control, look at the corporations, look at Monsanto's, look at Roundup, find out what glyphosate is, look at Cargill, look at Agristat, look at some of these companies and what's going into not even what we call food anymore, because it can't even be defined as food. It's not natural. We have to think about those things. If you're going to cast a vote or not cast a vote, I understand either way you're an enabler. And then if you do exercise your voice and cast a vote, then hold those people's feet to the fire. Understand that the enemy is not going to give us anything that we need to defeat them. So when we talk about what needs to be done in the Black community, we need to stand as a solid force. The enemy's not going to tell you how to defeat them, but we can stand strong enough because we've done it. Paradise Valley, you look at Black Bottom, you look at Tulsa, Oklahoma, you look at Rosewood, you look at California. Learn the history of the interstates in this country, and I'll end it there.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Tearing up Black communities.
All right, let's go to Reynard.
I just wanted to make a quick comment of clarification, because I've heard a lot of people say that, they felt that the economy was better up under Trump. But in my research, and the clarification is that the reason that was because that was based off of policies put in by the previous administration. And when he got in, those things were already in place. So had there been another term that was coming up for the other president, he would have received the benefit of that. And that oftentimes is kind of how it goes. The next president often inherits the benefits or the cons of the previous administration. So where they seemed like the economy was flourishing off of Trump's presidency, that was in direct relation to the things that the previous administration had put into place. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Hey, can I respond to that?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Larry or George, was it? No? Or was it Dr. Jan?
Oh, yeah. So I really have appreciated all of the comments so far. Just want to say this is good discussion. It's good to have diversity. Um, and just living in the country that we're in right now and seeing what's going on. Certainly as it's not about, yes, as an African American woman, I definitely could say, and my feelings about who I know, of course, I would want to give a handout to, and I mean, the woman is bad as the vice president, but looking at her track record has been amazing. And I just want to say, when you really look at her background and see what she has done outside of her becoming the vice president of the United States, she has given so much already to the American people. And I think that as a vice president, I don't know if anyone knows through the history of vice presidents, how they weren't really given that much to do as it relates to coming into the forefront. Their job was to do what the president has said to do, and they followed through as well as being a side of them. So for her to have made the leaps and has catapults in ways of getting out and working for the vote, it has been astounding. It has been amazing to see that happen. For her to come in midstream at the end and have shown how she really wants to fight for the American people, that speaks volumes. And I just wanted to give that as a word of looking at what our world would look like, or what our country rather would look like, with having someone with that type of mindset to lead the American people. I would go to sleep at night, I think, a lot better than someone that says they want to be a dictator. I'll digress after that.
Now we're up against 8 o'clock, Dr. Jan.
All right. We are definitely up to our 8 o'clock, and I know again, I see a lot of ladies on the call, and I appreciate the ladies on the call because it was the ladies that came forward again towards the end of our call last time. And so if anyone wants to again give about 30 seconds to speak on this forum about your thoughts, any takeaways, feel free to jump in.
Sorry, hey. So yes, voting is a right, and I'm going to do it. I'm not excited about it. Either candidate I'm impressed with. Do I vote because she's Black and she's a female, or do I vote because he's an idiot and he said some crazy stuff? Like, it's not a hard decision. I'm one to not do what everybody else does. I could care less that she's a Black woman. I could care less that he's crazy. I'm just gonna, vote what God has told me to do and how I feel the nation is going to, to be ran. I'm not a leader I'm not a follower like that. I'm not rah-rah, Kamala or rah-rah Trump. So I've made a decision. I just have to execute it. And I definitely prayed, before I made my decision. I think both candidates are horrible. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not impressed with either one of them. Just like everybody was riding with Biden, and you're not black if you don't vote for him. The same thing Barack kind of said, and then Trump with his, his stupid stuff. So we're just up against.
You went on mute, Patrice.
My back. Oh, here I go.
Oh.
Yeah, I just said we're voting on two people who are not wise. She's smart and politically. I think some of the stuff she's done is great, and I think some of the stuff he's done is great. But yeah, like I said, my decision is going to be based on my morals and values, and not because Beyonce came across the stage or Herschel Walker. Like, they're going to go back and be millionaires the next second, and I'm still going to be in the hood, just trying to survive. So that's all I have to say.
I like her values.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you. That's very, very good. I'm with you.
Oh, we have Troy hand up.
That's true, right?
Yes, I just wanted to conclude once again, I think had First Lady Kamala started, if Madam Kamala started in the beginning of the race, I think she would be ahead. But to come back from a 10-point deficit and to be where she's at now, I think the American people have chose who they want. So I'm gonna follow the heartbeat of America and go with her. But I want to acknowledge the fact that she has a lot that she has. So once she gets into that Oval Office, she has a lot that the people are going to be watching her for, because she has a track record and she has a history, and her history is not necessarily just for our community, just regardless of what skin she's in.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all of the input and the things that were shared. I figured that we would just list out a couple of both of their accomplishments, since that's what's on the table for discussion. And really quick, looking at how she co-sponsored the bipartisan bill that aimed to reduce recidivism and reforming sentences laws. That's when for the criminal justice reform, as well as the healthcare Medicare plan that I spoke of earlier, capping that off at $35. She was in support of that. Co-sponsored the resolution aiming to address climate change and economic inequality, looking to provide a tax credit for the middle class families, and to propose a tax credit for the renters spending a significant portion of their income on housing. Also, as a district attorney, looking at the back on the track to provide job training and education for first-time offenders and aiming to reduce recidivism. Combated truancy, environmental crimes, and transnational gangs. She also defended the state's death penalty in court despite personal opposition. She also co-sponsored the First Step Act, where it advocated to bail reform and decriminalize marijuana. And some things for Trump would be, because I wanted to be fair. Trump signed the significant tax reform bill, which lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, provided some tax cuts to individuals, higher earners. The administration rolled back various environmental and business regulations. Before the pandemic, this is a little skewed, it just said that we had the low unemployment rates, but that was off of Obama's regime. First Step Act, the bipartisan criminal justice reform bill aimed to reduce recidivism. The act also improved conditions for prisoners. Foreign and national policy for the Trump administration brokered normalization agreements between Israel and several Arab nations, including the United States and Arab Emirates. And it's just the China trade policy was also in there, but withdrawal from the Iran and nuclear deal. Military policy, with Trump emphasized increasing defense spending and took aggressive actions such as the killings of Iran general. So healthcare, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, effectively eliminated Affordable Care Act. Well, effectively eliminated the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate, which is required for Americans to have health insurance or face a tax penalty, and veterans reform. So there's a lot of every areas for you guys to do some research on, and both candidates, so that you are well informed. I know that we are over our time. Dr. Jan, did you have anything?
I just wanted to thank everyone for joining tonight to our very urgent call. It is the midnight hour, and when we wake up, the Lord's will, this time on Wednesday, we'll have a new president. So we look forward to everyone again exercising and doing their due diligence. And so until we meet again, we may do a post. I don't know if anybody wants to, but we're just going to say we're going to be exactly where we need to be, and we're going to acquire who we need to actually be that president for us. John Newby.
Yeah, hey, I think you should do a follow-up, because I think it's going to be more important after the election now, because all the things that we have the biggest concerns about, you have a platform to talk about it and then put those things into action. If people, are strong about their opinions, let them go to work and hold those that represent us accountable. So I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. We have to do this again.
Indeed, I will. Let's do it. We're gonna do a post. Let's do that post call. Whether it's gonna be next Monday or the following Monday, we're gonna do a post. How about that? Everyone on this call, just put it on your calendar.
Let's go 2 Mondays out.
Yep, 2
I'll move
Mondays
my one
out.
meeting from tonight to next week.
Dr.
Sounds
Newby,
like
if I
a
could
plan.
say something before we end.
Yeah.
So this is Georgia Friendly II again. I'd like to say thank you for teaming up with us. This is Out of the Mud Incorporated Media, and we're on several platforms here in Flint and others. So we're all over the internet right now, y'all, and I appreciate it. So if you would like, share, and subscribe to Out of the Mud Incorporated.
Out of the Mud Incorporated. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Larry Blatt. And again, if anyone wants to email me, feel free. I'll put my email in here. And if you obviously received an invitation, you have my direct dial too. Feel free to do that and send me a message. Let me know your thoughts. And if you did not get an opportunity to comment and you wanted to, definitely let me hear those thoughts as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a blessed evening.
And I urge you all to go to Trump's website, look at Project 47. It's not opinion, it's facts of the different proposals he wants to put in place day one, different policies, different changes. So please, please be aware of what potentially may be in the future.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you, Raynard. Thank you, Andre. You guys are great co-hosts.